Have you ever wondered how a single leader can remain in power for decades in a country where the majority of citizens have never even seen another president? In Uganda, Yoweri Museveni has ruled from State House in Kampala's Hili Nasakero district for more than 40 years, securing a seventh term in office at the age of 81. He now stands as one of the world's longest-serving presidents, extending his control over a nation of 46 million people, 70% of whom are under 35. Across Africa, leaders like Museveni, Cameroon's Paul Biya, and the Republic of Congo's Denis Sassou Nguesso have similarly entrenched themselves, combining decades of rule with apparent electoral legitimacy. But what happens when power is concentrated this way in nations with young populations and fragile democratic institutions, and what are the implications for regional stability and global relations? The stakes are enormous. If these leaders maintain their grip, they ensure continuity for foreign allies and stability for international investors, but at the same time, they limit political innovation and risk social unrest. Museveni's recent victory over opposition candidate Robert Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi, with 72% of the vote, illustrates this balance of power. While the result secured Museveni's leadership until 2031, it raises questions about the sustainability of a system where opposition figures face arrests, torture, or even death sentences, as in the case of Kizza Besigye, who has been imprisoned since November 2024 on treason charges. Across the continent, this pattern of governance, combining controlled elections, selective use of violence, and elite co-optation, has implications far beyond national borders, shaping regional alliances, humanitarian aid flows, and the approach of global powers. The historical context is essential. Uganda has experienced political instability since its independence from Britain in 1962. Colonial policies favored the Buganda kingdom and marginalized other groups, creating long-lasting institutional weaknesses. Museveni himself emerged from a violent six-year struggle, the Ugandan Bush War, culminating in 1986 when his National Resistance Army overthrew the previous civilian administration. His political philosophy, shaped during his studies in Tanzania, embraced Frantz Fanon's theory that political violence is a legitimate and necessary tool for transformation. Instead of applying this theory against colonial powers, Museveni employed it internally to suppress opposition, control allies, and enforce loyalty, a method that has defined Uganda's political trajectory for decades. Museveni's approach to governance relies on both incentives and fear. Analysts note that he allows allies to engage in corruption, creating dossiers that can be used to keep them in check. This strategy maintains internal cohesion but limits institutional integrity. Externally, Uganda positions itself as a regional stabilizer, contributing troops to missions in Somalia against al-Shabaab and hosting over 2 million refugees from South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Sudan, more than any other African country. These actions earn Western support, particularly from the United States, which provides nearly $1 billion in annual aid, though concerns about human rights and democratic backsliding have strained relations, especially under recent global aid reductions. Parallel dynamics exist in Cameroon. President Paul Biya, now 92, has governed since 1982 and recently secured an eighth term after Parliament removed presidential term limits in 2008. Known as the absentee president due to frequent periods abroad, Biya has maintained power using a combination of electoral management, divide-and-rule tactics, and selective enforcement of law. Opposition candidates are often marginalized, protests suppressed, and public discourse tightly controlled, yet the state maintains the appearance of a functioning democracy. Biya leverages ethnic coalitions to solidify his base, ensuring he retains a simple majority while presenting an illusion of pluralism. Meanwhile, in the Republic of Congo, Denis Sassou Nguesso, 81, prepares for another term, having held power on and off for 4 decades. Nguesso's return to office in 1997 followed a bloody civil conflict, after which he consolidated authority through both domestic suppression and strategic foreign alliances. France historically provided military support to secure oil investments, while more recently, China has supplied loans and foreign investment, shielding his government from international scrutiny. Nguesso's network extends through familial ties, regional alliances, and global partnerships, creating a resilient, if highly centralized, power structure. Yet, despite the oil wealth, the Republic of Congo remains underdeveloped, revealing the disconnect between resource control and national prosperity. What if these systems falter? In Uganda, the grooming of Museveni's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, as army chief suggests a potential dynastic succession, which could either stabilize the regime or provoke generational resistance from a young, politically aware population. In Cameroon, Biya's eventual absence could create a power vacuum, risking factionalism within the ruling party and widespread unrest among marginalized ethnic groups. In Congo-Brazzaville, any disruption of Nguesso's carefully maintained foreign alliances could trigger economic instability, weakening the regime's grip over oil revenues and undermining internal security mechanisms. In each scenario, the consequences extend beyond national borders, influencing refugee flows, regional security, and international diplomatic strategies. The use of elections as instruments of control is particularly striking. Across these 3 countries, elections exist not to reflect the popular will, but to maintain legitimacy while constraining dissent. Opposition figures face systemic suppression, journalists are intimidated, and electoral commissions are co-opted, creating a controlled environment where voting becomes ritualistic rather than participatory. Yet, analysts emphasize that abandoning elections entirely would be counterproductive, as they remain the only internationally recognized means for citizens to challenge authority. Resistance, therefore, must be channeled through protests, legal action, and civic mobilization, leveraging what limited democratic space remains. Foreign influence has played a decisive role in sustaining these regimes. Uganda's alignment with Western powers for aid and regional security provides Museveni with legitimacy and resources, while Cameroon's colonial-era ties and Congo-Brazzaville's partnerships with France and China exemplify the strategic use of international alliances to bolster internal authority. These relationships allow entrenched leaders to access financial support, military assistance, and political protection, creating a buffer against domestic opposition while integrating them into broader geopolitical frameworks. Such alliances also allow external powers to project influence in Africa's resource-rich regions, often prioritizing stability over democratic accountability. The human cost is significant. From arbitrary arrests to targeted violence during opposition rallies, citizens bear the brunt of political continuity. Uganda has seen systematic suppression of Bobi Wine supporters and other dissidents, while Cameroon's Anglophone regions continue to resist marginalization, facing a state response that escalates into ongoing conflict. In Congo-Brazzaville, political control and economic disparity foster discontent, even as foreign alliances shield the regime from immediate consequences. Across all 3 countries, young populations confront a political reality where participation is constrained, innovation is stifled, and generational change is slow or manipulated. Yet there is also evidence of resilience. Opposition movements, civic organizations, and independent media persist in challenging entrenched power. In Uganda, Bobi Wine and other opposition figures continue to rally support despite harassment. In Cameroon, activists like Wala advocate for systemic reform even amid repression. In Congo-Brazzaville, exiled activists and civil society groups monitor abuses and mobilize international awareness. These efforts indicate that while leadership may be entrenched, citizens and civil institutions continue to exert pressure, highlighting the enduring tension between centralized authority and democratic aspiration.